Hi, this is Father Lou Scurti with Friends of the Word, and today is another Q&A session. The Q&As are questions and answers. A few weeks ago, I sent out an email, and if you want to be on my email list, let me hear from you. Father Lou Scurti at hotmail.com. That's FR, Father Lou Scurti at hotmail.com. And we'll entertain your question. And if your question comes in, and if I answer it on the air, I will send you a gift. The gift's going today is a beautiful pair of rosaries, wooden rosaries, and a little brochure on how to pray the rosary, and that has all of the mysteries, the joyful, the sorrowful, the luminous, and the glorious mysteries of the rosary. So these gifts are going out today, and they're going out to members of Meghan Reardon's class. Meghan is a teacher at the Pope John Paul II Regional School in Willingboro, New Jersey, and her sixth grade class came up with a whole bunch of questions, and over the period of a few sessions, I will be answering these questions. But in the meantime, the whole class who asked questions will receive a pair of rosaries and, of course, how to pray the rosary. I'm going to ask you children, when you receive the rosary, and Megan, I'm going to send a pair for you and a pair for the principal as well. I want you to go to your parish priest and ask him to bless them. I don't want to mail something blessed through the mail, okay? So God bless you, and thank you for asking. And don't forget, let me hear from you, Father Lou Scurti at hotmail.com, and pass these episodes on to your families and friends. Okay, the question today comes from Caslie, C-A-S-L-I-E, Caslie. Why can only Catholics receive the body and blood of Christ? Beautiful question, and somewhat related to the one I'm going to answer right after that, which is it hard to become a priest? Is it hard to be a priest? So both questions are going to be addressed. Okay, what is the body and blood of Christ? Body and blood of Christ was instituted by Jesus Christ at his Last Supper. So right before he dies, this is on, say, Thursday night, he dies on Good Friday. Right before he dies, he gathers his friends at a Passover meal, we believe, and he blesses bread and blesses wine and tells them that this meal, now don't forget, Passover is a covenant meal that the Jews celebrated, and Jesus is a Jew. This meal is a new covenant. What's a covenant? An agreement. This meal is a new covenant sealed not in the blood of lambs like they used to do in the temple, but in my blood and my body. So he breaks the bread, gives it to them, and says, I want you to take this and eat it. This is my body. Then he takes the cup of wine, blesses it, gives it to them, and says, take this, drink this. This is my blood. And you can find the exact quotes and description of these in the various Gospels, Matthew, Mark, and Luke especially, and references in St. Paul's letters. Okay, now why only Catholics? Well, Catholics historically go back to Jesus' apostles, beginning with Peter, and those who went throughout the world, but Peter went to Rome. The early church starts in Rome after it's established, started with Pentecost in the Holy Land, and they spread out. Peter establishes one branch of it in Rome. Everyone who follows the directions of Peter and become baptized are members of the church. Those members of the church do something very significant. They recall, they remember. And what they recall and remember above all else is the celebration of the body and blood of Christ at the Last Supper. That becomes a way of saying thanksgiving, Eucharistica, giving thanks. So the people who are receiving the Eucharist and listening to the letters, the epistles, and listening to the stories of Jesus are the early Christians. Now, they're not Catholics, they're Christian. Only later on are we called Catholic when other groups started saying, this is what it means to be a Christian, this is what it means to be a Christian, and the church comes together and says, okay, we are one holy Catholic and apostolic. Okay, we are a church that's sent to the whole world, Catholic, and eventually we become known as the Catholic or Western Church. Members of the church, therefore, gather each Sunday and many many during the week, and they celebrate their faith by recalling Jesus and the examples and the stories of the apostles. Then they break bread. They recall what Jesus did. They take the Eucharist, and the head of the assembly, the group, called the presbyter, um, been assigned by the bishops, who are the apostles and their successors, and he breaks the bread, and they eat the body and blood of Christ and receive Holy Communion. If you don't believe in the church, then receiving Holy Communion is not an experience of faith. So those who experience this Eucharist are experiencing what we call one of the 7 sacraments, and the sacrament unites us to Christ and unites us to the church and becomes our membership badge, you might say, in the church. So the Eucharist, the Holy Communion, is reserved for Catholics and those who believe that it is the body and blood of Christ, going back to apostolic times, are the Catholics. Now, many other people might understand it and like the Eucharist and think it's a great idea, but if the belief and faith in the Catholic Church and the Catholic understanding of this as the body and blood of Christ is not there, then for them it's a symbol or a nice idea, but it's not a sacred moment or a sacrament as we refer to it. Okay? So I hope that answers your question, Cassidy, on why only Catholics receive the body and blood of Christ. The other question is it hard to be a priest? Is it hard to be one or become one? Well, becoming a priest is academic, but it also means that the individual, and now the individuals are only male in the tradition of the Western Church, us, the individual has what we call a call, an inspiration, a thought. Gee, I'd like to be a priest. I'd like to do what priests do. That kind of vocation hits different people in different ways. So different young men experience it differently. Some experience it through prayer. Some experience it through service. Some experience it through feeding the poor, visiting people in the nursing homes, reading the Bible, reading Holy Scripture. And of course, all of our faith comes from the Bible and the history of the church. So becoming a priest means that you go through college, you go to a seminary, and in the seminary you study the Bible and all of the history of the church, because we're a church who hold the Bible and history very important, very close together. So we go to education at the seminary. We are ordained if we choose to keep going. We're ordained as deacons, and then we become priests. So the process is not difficult. It's long, 8 years, but it's not difficult. It's challenging academically and spiritually. We've got to always maintain our faith in God, our faith in the church, our faith in the scriptures, our faith in the tradition of the church. One of those traditions is celibacy, which means that men who want to be priests can't be married. So, again, all of that has to be looked at and experienced through the academic years of seminary. Is it hard to be a priest? I think it's the best job in the world. I love being a priest. I've been a priest for 40 years. So some of you people weren't even born when I became a priest in 1973. I love being a priest. I spent most of my priesthood in academics, which means I taught in high school, DePaul High School in Wayne, New Jersey, and college. And I worked at William Patterson University as the campus minister, which is where Meghan and I met. I love all aspects of being a priest. I love the Eucharist. I love celebrating. I love preaching. I love visiting people in the hospital. As a matter of fact, after this episode, I'm going to locally to a church, to a hospital, St. Joseph's Hospital, to visit the father of one of our friends. That's what priests do. We bring, hopefully, Christ's message of love and compassion to others. I love visiting the soup kitchens and bringing students to the soup kitchens. Recently, one of the football teams and I got together and we brought a whole bunch of toys and articles, personal articles, to Oasis, which is a place in Patterson, New Jersey, for women and children. We brought toys and food to another place, which is a pantry in Paterson, New Jersey. That's the inspiration from God, from the apostles, got it from Jesus, passed on to all the priests that have ever existed and ever lived. So it's hard being a priest? Nah, it's a great joy. Come on, join us. This has been Father Louis Scurti promising rosaries and how to say the rosary to Meghan's class and anyone who asks questions that we entertain on the air. And I'd like to hear from you, Father Lou Scurti at hotmail.com. God bless you.